Happy birthday to you, Apple Stores. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Think Different podcast. It is here. It is Will. It is Frank. We are the former Apple retail employees, 20 years working at the Apple Store. And guess what? It's also 20 today because the Apple Store, as of this recording today, has turned 20 years old. And we are here celebrating that amazing accomplishment by Apple. Frank Funk, the Keto drummer, the man.
Hey, what's up?
You been drumming out there or no?
No, we haven't had any new gigs other than the one a couple weeks ago at the winery. But we may have some coming up. The guy that
and of course you have to bring your Zevia with you. Absolutely, folks. You must bring your Zevia with you. Absolutely, non-sponsored, by the way. Well, Frank, we are here today to talk about one subject, and as of this date today is the first time the first Apple Store opened in Tyson's Corner. It's the very first one that opened up in Virginia, and we're going to talk about celebrating the 20 years of retail. We're going to talk a couple articles that we liked that discussed about this, this historic achievement. I would say what people originally thought of the idea of an Apple Store, and for the first time, we're going to show you video here on our YouTube, but you'll hear the audio version as well on our podcast platform, that you will be able to hear Steve Jobs going through the very first Apple Store. He did this, I think, at a Macworld 6 days before the actual store opened up. So that way he showed a tour of the store. And it's amazing to look at what the store looked like and what it looks like today and how it's changed.
Yeah.
Pretty remarkable stuff. But before we get started, folks, we did put up a brand new video exclusively on our YouTube channel. Check it out, folks. If you have never used Safari in your life, well, I think I hopefully convinced you because I put a nice training video up there, about 11 minutes long. We appreciate you guys listening to it, watching it. Hopefully you get something out of it. I know Frank did.
Yes, I did.
My biggest takeaway from that video was the fact that how many websites track you. That is just a crazy amount. Amazing. Like your favorite website, your favorite thing in life, pro wrestling, and there's like 30 people trying to track you.
If people go to that in Safari, that little shield up there, and look at that, I think it's going to be a real eye-opener,
Mm-hmm. Which ties into 14.5, why that you don't want to be tracked.
Yeah. But that was last week's topic.
Yes, it was.
Today, let's jump right into it, man.
Yep. So I wanted
should be in a festive mood.
We are in a great
birthday
mood, man.
Party.
In fact, just so people can see on my YouTube, I am wearing an official Apple logo shirt. This was exclusive at the Apple Store. You could not buy this anywhere. You had to go to Apple campus to get it. Frank, you've been there. You bought probably a couple things on the campus, right?
I haven't been to, not to Cupertino.
Oh, you didn't go to Cupertino for your Genius training?
Or, no, I went to Austin, Texas.
Ah, so he didn't get to go to that store.
But one of my good buddies, when they were in Cupertino, I had them buy me 24 Apple coffee mugs,
so
which
I
am still using.
I had to figure out, I'm like, Frank, I cannot put 24 mugs in my cart. So you literally, I bought them. I was like, can you get me 24 of them? And they literally had to bring out these boxes, and I had to ship them.
Yep.
So I had to go to FedEx. I had to ship them out just because you wanted your goddamn mugs. Yeah, that's a good story.
And I still have them. Have them, man.
I think there were no more. I don't even think I got 24. I think I got like 20 or something. It wasn't like I couldn't fulfill your order.
I can't tell you how many people want one of those.
Well, then you gotta give me one. I should have had one anyway. For just doing it. I should have just took one for the heck of it. But so many people asked me to bring home stuff from that Apple campus. I remember how many people, I literally had to buy another bag that was filled of t-shirts, jackets, everything. I literally had to go to Target. I bought a bag. Obviously Apple paid for all my stuff, so I didn't have to pay for it, but then I returned it in my local Target, and then I got gypped because the tax different.
Yep.
So I actually lost money because I did that.
I never understood why Apple didn't have like a store, a web store for employees to buy that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know why they didn't do that. That doesn't make
I don't know.
any sense. But you know what? It made it exclusive. And by the way, I've been there twice, so I had to do this like 2 times.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was crazy, crazy time. All right, so let's talk about 20 years of the Apple Store. Now, I read an article from 9 to 5 Mac by a guy named Michael Stieber, and I actually contacted him, and he actually listens to our show, and he wrote a great article. I wanted to start this off. 20 years ago this week, Apple opened its first brick and mortar retail stores to applause, cheering, and seamless endless lines of smiling faces. What started in 2 malls in Tysons Corner, Virginia, and Glendale, Florida, became a tradition spanning 2 decades, generations of customers, and more than 500 new stores. And he has an article that shows you he's doing like 4 parts of this series, which is going to be really cool. He's the next one he actually did is 20 years of Apple Store quotes. So I guess of big people that wrote quotes. But this was an article that he wrote, and here we are 20 years later, and the amount of products that they have and how they've grown from a small store in Soho to these big screens to a glass cube to no longer even being in a mall and taking these historical buildings and turning them into a place of that everyone could get together. Pretty amazing stuff. And you can see in the photos of this, I mean, we don't have this anymore where there is lines out the door, but he shows photos of every single Apple Store that opened that year, and it's pretty amazing what is there. I mean, they had here we go. Tiger was just announced around that time. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
They even had a scratch and win. Win a PowerBook G4, an iPod, and other prizes. You won iWork 05.
Yeah.
So they gave away prizes.
Well, if we could step back for a minute, you have to remember at the time they opened these. Do you remember Gateway Computers?
Yes, I do. The Cow.
The Cow. Now, Gateway had a bunch of stores.
Yep.
And they failed miserably, and they closed. And Apple opened their stores right after Gateway closed all of theirs. Now, one of the major differences was in the Gateway stores, you could go and look at the computer, but they didn't have any stock. You had to order it, and it would be shipped to your home. Here at the Apple stores, you could go in, purchase, and physically take it home with you. But some of the quotes, the interesting quotes when Apple made this announcement. Here's one that is pretty good. It says, Apple stores are doomed before they open. Retail will bankrupt Apple again. So those are a couple of the comments that came out when this announcement was made. Because remember, Apple had been in bankruptcy, and then they came back, and now Steve Jobs, back at the helm, wanted to open these stores, and it was a big gamble. But you can continue, Will, explaining how this was such a different experience.
Well, you know, I just realized this. Remember the app? I'm going to go through a couple of famous Apple stores. I think that'd be a good idea in the same article. Apple Soho actually is the first Apple store that did exactly what it's doing now. It's taking these older buildings and turning them into something. This was an historical post office in Soho. That's what that originally was. And Steve Jobs was actually at that store. That was opened on July 18th of 2002. So, and go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, the other thing is, unlike other retailers, Apple doesn't gut the stores. They leave as much of the authentication of that original building and build around it, because they want to keep that historical perspective, just like they did at the one in New York, the Union Station. You know, I mean, very, very well done, and they retain the historical value of these buildings.
Yep. This is another for November 20th of 2004, Apple Regent Street. That is the first Apple store in the UK. What year do you think the Fifth Avenue store opened up?
Oh.
It's the most iconic store. I'll just tell you, May 19th, 2006. That's how long the store's been open.
Wow.
So 15 years, actually, of the day, it is actually opened. 15
And it
years
already
of the day.
and it really it's already had a refresh.
Yeah, and think about it. The iPhone still has not been released yet. That hasn't even been announced.
Yes.
And that store opened up. That's how far back we're going. Now, let's talk about when we started working at Apple. West 14th Street opened up December 7th, 2007. So we just started around that time on there. Carnegie Hall, Carnegie Library
Yeah.
in D.C. That was a big one that they opened up. And that one opened up in May 11th of 2019. And then the most recent one, that big dome one that was overseas. I forget where that one was.
Shanghai, wasn't it? Or
Shanghai,
Hong
yeah.
Kong.
Yeah, so
Hong Kong.
that one just opened up as well. So those are a couple of famous Apple stores. But I always wanted to know, why did Apple pick Tyson's Corner? It's like the weirdest spot to pick. You'd think they would open up in New York first, or like, I can understand California because that's where they are. But I wanted to research that and find out why. And actually, Steve Jobs has mentioned why this has happened. So he said, why these two locations? They were the first two that were ready. They told the press in 2001. Tyson's Corner and Glendale Galleria stores may have happened to open first by chance, but like the 23 remaining stores that opened in 2001, their locations were strategically planned ahead of time. So very interesting on that. So you got anything to add, Frank, on the Apple Store and what we kind of just researched here?
Well, they changed the journey for the consumer. They had the Genius Bar, they had the specialists that dealt face to face with the customers, not trying to really sell them anything, but to just show them features of the computers. So it was a whole different experience. It wasn't like, first of all, nobody in the Apple Store works on commission.
No.
So the whole mindset was different.
Mm-hmm.
It was the focus on the customer and the experience, not sales. That was one of the three top things that they focused on the mentality. Then, of course, the Apple Creed. You remember those?
Mm-hmm. The Credo.
The Credo, the Apple Steps of Service. And it was also, you had to look at all the small stuff. You know, I know when I was at both stores, we had a lot of leeway. If a customer came in with a cable, and, you know, if you felt that they were honest in their approach and whatever, and you wanted to give them a cable, just gave them cable.
Yep, we did
Replace
used
the
to
cable.
do that. We would actually take product right from the shelf,
Yep.
open it up, put the bad one in, put the old one, give them the new one, and we would do what we call a no receipt return, it's called.
Yep.
And that's what we used to do. Now we don't do that anymore, but we definitely used to do that all the time. But I can tell you, like, even if we were sold out of them, we would probably still do it.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing, Steve was very, as most people know, was very, very particular. And I believe it was the Fifth Avenue store that was delayed because he was dissatisfied with the screws used in the glass staircase within the store. I mean, that's how detailed Steve was. Now, I believe the first VP of retail was Ron Johnson, correct?
Yeah, I was just about to talk about him. Yes.
Yeah, he was really a super guy. He had videos that he issued practically every month.
Yeah.
For all the employees to view. It was a very exciting time to work for Apple. Very exciting.
Yeah, and actually, I wanted to talk a little bit about Ron Johnson because he was the first, he was the pioneer of the concept of the store and the Genius Bar. And he originally worked for Target. He was the vice president of merchandising, and then Steve brought him over for these redesign of these stores. And what was great about Ron, he's probably the best person that ran the stores, I would say. I don't think anybody else stands out over him. Even Angela doesn't stand out over him. Is that he was just so, like, he was doing everything really right. That's what I liked about it. Is like every change they made was to the benefit of the customer, but also the benefit of us too. So that's what I really liked about Ron. And yeah, those videos were really good. You know, very inspiring. Think of this, and this is a great statistic. In 2011, when he was still there, Apple stores in the United States had a revenue of $473,000 per employee.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
It's probably a lot more now. But, and then the biggest thing that we always talked about is when you compare us to a Best Buy, sales per unit square, right? Because
Yes.
Apple stores are not as big.
Yes.
They're especially the mall ones. But the amount of money that we would generate out of that store compared to a Best Buy blows it out of the water.
Yes. But for square footage, yes.
Yes,
Absolutely.
in fact, it said in the U.S. it's $3,085 per square foot, almost double that of Tiffany and Company, who was second in the retailer list of 2011.
Yeah. You know, for stores that were touted to fail miserably, it went so far beyond anybody's wildest expectations. It was just a phenomenon. It really, really was. And to this day, there hasn't been anybody that in the computer industry anyway that can really compare to it.
Nope,
You
not at
know,
all.
Microsoft has
Closed all
opened
theirs.
stores, but they were largely, you know, they were moderately successful.
I don't think they were successful because they're not open anymore. So
Well, yeah.
I would say they're not successful at all. They just copied everything what an Apple store did.
Now, when they first opened, when I first started working at Apple, a friend of mine where I worked full time, we sat down and we kind of analyzed the number of products, and we came up with, at the time, if you don't count the different iterations of the different computers, they had a 13-inch portable, a 15-inch, a 17-inch. They had a 21.5-inch iMac, and I think was a 24-inch iMac. No iPhone when I first started, no iPads. And so we came up with maybe 13 different computer products that they sold. And like you said, for the amount of sales per square foot, it was astronomical. Even when you add in the iPhones and the iPads, forget about the different iterations. That's still a singular product.
And I would also throw an iPod in that because
Yes.
back when
Oh,
we
yes,
started,
the iPods.
The
Oh,
iPod
yeah. And
was huge when we were there or when we first started.
my favorite was the Chiclet. The Chiclet
The
iPod,
very
the one
small ones.
that little small one you clip
Yeah.
on anywhere. That was pretty neat.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, even today, I think that would still work. You know, especially if you know. But now you have an Apple Watch, so honestly,
Yeah,
Apple Watch
yeah. So yeah,
has kind of taken that place over that. It'd be really worthless to have it. I mean, right now an iPod is a completely worthless product. Oh, look who's here, everybody! I didn't even know that. Frank, you didn't tell me Luke was here. What's up, bud?
I was waving at Tara. What did I care about Luke?
Well, Luke is here on the podcast, everybody. Luke, do you have anything you want to say to your fans? Well,
Say
that's
mama.
The cat's here, too. He does know how to say mama, actually. He's really here. Hey, bud. Look what I just did. Oh, my God. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Terrible dad.
I'm a terrible dad. I am so sorry. But this is Luke, all grown up. The last time you probably saw him was like what, 5 months ago?
He's getting big, man.
Yeah, he is a big guy. In fact, what is his percentage, Tara?
His height is in the 99th percentile.
99 percentile.
Wow.
Look at this guy.
Hey, Luke. What's
Hey,
up?
Say hi to Uncle Frank. No, you don't want to say hi to Uncle Frank.
Nah.
He's got eyebrows in his ear, though. Look at the eyebrows showing up on his ear, though. That's kind of weird. You see that? It's like
Yeah.
the eyebrows were showing up. I don't know what that was about. Oh, he is not happy, though. I'm sorry. This is Mom's fault.
Broke him.
I didn't break him. He doesn't want to be in front of the camera. So, You know, and thank God of Apple because, you know, I don't know how to tie that in whatsoever. I can't tie it in. So, all right. Well, Luke made a visit here on the podcast, and he cried. So now it makes me look like I'm a terrible father. That's awesome. So, good for us. See, I'm so focused on you, Frank, that I don't even know my own kids in my room.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, now that we've talked a little bit about the Apple Store and that my son has joined the podcast, we are going to switch gears. On our YouTube version of our show, you are going to see a video of Steve
Sometimes it takes a different approach to help you unlock your true potential. With Capella University's game-changing FlexPath learning format, you gain relevant skills you can apply to your career right away. Earn your degree from an accredited university and be confident in the quality of your education. Imagine your future differently at capella.edu. Capella University is accredited by the Higher Learning Commission. Learn more at capella.edu/accreditation.
Introducing the very first Apple Store. It's about a 4-minute video, but we're going to stop and start it in between. And if you're listening to our audio version, we're going to talk over it, so that way you can hear it. So let's get ready and let's share that video.
All right. Let's, as Warner Wolf used to say, let's go to the videotape.
Okay. All right, let's hit play here, Frank. Let's take a look at the first Apple retail store. This is on May 13th of, again, this is Macworld. Knock the volume down just a tiny bit.
Hi, I'm Steve Jobs, and I'm here at Tyson's Corner Mall in Virginia, right outside of Washington, D.C., and I'm standing in front of this wood barricade we built in front of our first retail store that's going to open in 6 days.
All right, let's take a stop real quick. So that's another big thing we used to do.
Yes.
Apple stores would be hidden prior to the launch. Now, that can't really happen too much anymore, but it got people talking, right? You have this big wall, right? You know Apple's opening something, you can't see inside of it. I always watch Bar Rescue, and that is a great, because he always says, put a big banner up, put a question mark on it, because it'll get people talking about it.
Yep.
You know, and this is like, I just remember, think of that. This is exactly what we used to do, especially when the product launches were happening. We would shut the store down.
And we'd have the black curtains.
Black curtains up so no one could see inside. And we would literally have to take the store apart and put it back together in 3 hours.
Yes.
To get this to launch.
When I can attest to the black wall, because when they were building Quaker Bridge, in fact, the black wall actually came out into the hall. So, and it wasn't just flat against the glass. It came out, and you had to walk around it, and you couldn't see what was going on inside.
But you knew it was. But did it show that it was an Apple store that was coming there? No. Oh, you don't even know. Okay, so see, Apple continues that tradition. There you go. They don't really do it too much anymore. But all right, let's go back to the video.
Now,
let's take a look.
Nobody's seen inside here yet, and I'd like to take you inside for a secret little private tour. So come on in.
They had to work on their exposure.
Now, this is our store. And the store is divided into 4 parts. The first quarter of the store has our home section with great home and education products, and our pro section with all our great pro products. And every product we make is in this first 25% of the store. You can see the whole product line. And as you see up on the ceiling, we've even labeled the sections. Home, music,
that's
kids,
very
genius
old
on
school.
this side.
Yep.
And pro, movie, photos, and etc. on this side.
All right, so let's stop it there. So that does not happen anymore at all.
No, but there's some other things. The fluorescent lights.
Yes.
Those are all gone.
Yes, the fluorescent lights are gone because they're 100% energy. It's very rare to see a column in the store, but you notice there's not that many of them.
Yes.
But they have columns in the store. In fact, now all Apple stores will not have a column in it. They refuse to build a store with a column in it. So that's it. That's the infrastructure they have to build. But again, this is 2001. This was the first prototype of the store.
Yep.
But that, it's interesting how home and pro were separated. You definitely don't have that, and everything in the first 3 tables so the concept of their main products is still in the front of the store. That really has not changed. Depending on what store you go to, depending on the layout, but that's typically it.
Yes.
On there. So let's keep going through.
So
see
the
what
first
Steve's gonna tell us.
25% shows you our entire product line. Now there's 36 computers on display in the store. Every single one of them is connected to the internet. So you can go up to any computer and start surfing, go to your personal website, or do whatever you want to do on the internet. And
Yeah, that is still happening today. You can, I mean,
Yes.
that's one thing about an Apple store is that people like to go there because there was no blocking, really anything.
That's right.
I mean, they're definitely blocking porn sites, but I mean, like, but that is a crazy, you know,
Well, you
idea that
remember, Will,
back then you couldn't do that.
Yeah.
You could go to a library and do that, but
Yes.
you couldn't go. That's it. But Apple, you how many times, Frank? How many people were on those computers just to do things, go on Facebook, stuff like
Yeah.
that?
Well, you remember the woman that would come in and she would send out emails to LL Cool
Ja
J
Rule, cool LL Cool J, man, she loved her LL Cool J.
every night, and then there were other guys that would come in and just do their email and surf the web and sit there for hours.
A couple pedophiles too, probably.
Well, I don't know about that.
All right, let's.
all of our portables are connected with Airport Wireless Networking, so you
Airport
can
Wireless
experience that
Network.
for yourself. It's pretty great. So come on over here. Let me show you what we got going in the home section. Here's our newest iBook. We've got iBooks on display. Most of the products are running self-running demos, but you can just walk up to them and start using them for anything you like.
Yep.
And here we've got 3 iBooks on display, and we've got every single model of iMac we make as well. We've got our new PowerBook G4 Titaniums running here.
jeez.
Again, all running macOS.
That thing got
10,
hot.
All on Airport, so you can just pick these up and see what it's really like to have wireless connection to the internet.
Again, look at the cleanness of the store, and
Yeah.
they still use wood and the
Yep.
white or more steel these days, but it's still the color scheme is still relatively the same with a little bit darker tone.
Yes.
It's really the same.
The
And-
banners in the background. Remember how we used to change those banners?
Yeah, those banners were removable. Now some stores were different than others, but yeah, we would have to change those banners every time they were going to update the store. So that's still around today, still there.
And we've got every Power Mac we make here, along with
Yeah.
all of our great displays, including the 22.
There's a
inch
cube
cinema
there too, by
display.
the way. Solutions.
The center half of the store, literally half the store, is devoted to solutions because people don't just want to buy personal computers anymore. They want to know what they can do with them. And we're going to show people exactly that.
Now that's a big philosophy in us because
Yes.
so we never said here's the external hard drive. We always had to explain, well, what is the full solution for what you're buying? What do you need
That's
besides
correct.
just a computer? So what external hard drive you need? Or in this case, back then, they have video cameras that you could buy in there.
Well,
like
yes.
mini DV cameras, which that's what they are. Those are mini DV cameras right there.
Well, remember, him and Ron Johnson came up with the APPLE, which is approach, probe, present, solution,
Listen.
present solution, listen, and a fond farewell.
Well, yep, end, which would be E.
Yes.
So that's what the Apple Steps of Service are. But this is going to be pretty interesting because this is a very outdated section. Even though it still exists, it's definitely not as present.
And so
Yeah.
we've got 4 sections. The solutions we've chosen to feature now are music, movies, photos, and kids. And so come on over here as an example. You can bring your kids into our store and they can just sit a spell, play their favorite
Oh,
game.
we still had those balls.
Yeah, those balls are very old. So if you're listening to the podcast version of it, there's these black balls that were like really expensive that you would sit on. You probably have sat on one if you've been to an Apple store before.
Yeah.
But this is again another thing that's still there is a kids section where they can play kids games.
And the smaller table, and yeah,
And now it's iPads. It used to be computers. Now it's iPads
yeah.
that they do that with.
Of Mac education software that I've ever seen, and you can buy the best educational titles for your kids.
That's another funny thing. Software.
Yes.
That is not in the stores anymore.
Yep.
In fact, that went away pretty like within 4 or 5 years of us being there.
Yeah.
Everything went digital after that.
Yep. It's interesting seeing the
We decided
changes.
carrying
Yeah.
our own products wasn't enough. So not only do we have over 300 software titles here that we'll look at in a minute, but we have 24 of the best portable digital devices. We're carrying 6 digital camcorders, 6 digital cameras, 6 MP3 players, and 6 handheld organizers. So if we look right
Now remember, iPod is not around yet. I don't
Yes.
think at this time.
back of you here,
So-
we've got 3 Canons and 3 Sony.
Now that's an
So you can
expensive
come in here
camera
and
back
not
in the
only
day, those
can you
Canons.
buy these digital devices, but you can actually hook them right up to the Macs and take them for a spin.
This was the main reason to come to the Apple Store.
Wouldn't it be great if when you went to buy a computer, or after you bought a computer, if you had any questions, you could ask a genius? Well, that's what we've got. This is called the Genius Bar. As you can see, we've got some pictures of our heroes up here. And
Is it now? This is the granddaddy. Look, the logo is still the same.
Yep.
That has not changed in 20 years. So pretty amazing stuff. Even if just going back here, like they don't have these pictures on the wall anymore.
Yep.
But the bar, but it's interesting because I think I don't know if at the time, but you needed an appointment to go to that, or you just walked up to it. I don't remember. For this role, I couldn't tell you.
I think it was just a walk up.
Yeah, I think
Because
it was.
initially
Heroes up here.
it wasn't very successful.
Right.
this bar here, I'm not a genius, but all
The stools are the same.
behind here. There'll be somebody here who can do service right in the store and who can answer any questions you've got about your Mac or about any of the peripherals or software that work with it. And if that person doesn't know the answer, they got a hotline to call us in Cupertino at Apple headquarters where we have somebody who does.
That we need back in the stores. That is without a doubt something that the Apple stores need to have back. Imagine if they started having a red phone again.
Well, they do. It's Apple Support app.
Okay, Frank. But what I thought was interesting, he said like any peripherals you connect with. So they're even talking about third-party solutions.
Yeah.
Even then, like we still try to do that today, but we also try to like avoid it in some way because it's not our place to talk about it. So, but the red phone, was the part I was looking forward to because the red phone was really something unique, and
Yes.
I wonder how long it lasted because I don't think it was there that long.
I don't know.
All right.
And so we're hoping this is going to be an entirely new thing.
This is something that's going to be very outdated.
We're so excited about this. We can't wait to let customers in the store. So let's walk through the software aisle in the middle. One last thing I want to show you is all.
But before we do that, the stage area. This was the workshop area. This is the start of the creative role right here, which
Yes.
I don't think was even around yet at the
No.
time. But the workshops where you could come in and watch it, I'm surprised he didn't talk about that in this area, unless it was just a spot for right now. But you can see they have like a computer back there. So this was definitely made for keynote speeches or workshops.
great software. Look at this stuff. We have over 300 titles here.
Look at that.
From
Wow.
games to the most sophisticated pro applications. There's something for everybody here. I'll see you when the
Mac OS
door
9.
opens.
There we go. And that was the video. All right.
Amazing.
It's amazing, right? With the
Yeah.
change of the store. So we hope you get to watch the video version of our show as well, because I think it's good just to see it while we're explaining it. But amazing, amazing. Here we are, 20 years later. There are more than 500 stores now. They barely closed any of them. The only store I know of is the Atlantic City store for very obvious reasons. It's very hard to have an Apple store out there. There's just not enough people, and not to mention the spot's not great.
Well,
And it's Atlantic
I
City.
mean, I always thought the problem with Atlantic City was that there was,
It's a tourist spot.
yes. Now, I mean, Las Vegas is a tourist spot, and they got, 5 stores in Vegas?
Yep. Hmm.
So it's a little bit different.
I
But-
think it's the type of people that live there. That has a lot to do with it. Also, that store was on the boardwalk. You had to
Yes.
park,
Had-
pay for parking, go to the Apple store. They had to give you a voucher to come back out to
Yeah.
not pay for it. It just was not convenient.
And you had to go, well, you could go through Caesars to get to the walkway to go in there.
Yeah, it just didn't work out. I've worked at that store maybe 2 or 3 times when I was there. Small store, very
Yes.
small store.
Yeah, it was.
That was more like it almost felt like it was a pop-up store. More so.
But they did a lot of business with the casinos. So
Right. But yeah, that's our episode on the Apple Store. I want to. It was good to take a walk down memory lane. Think about it, Frank. We 20 years. I spent 11 there. You spent a little over 10.
Yeah.
And that's a long time out of the Apple retail life. I have been there for more than half of its life, that's crazy to me.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
listen, I always told people that had the Apple stores been around earlier in my business career, I definitely would have had a change in the career. And,
Well, I
went
can tell you,
full-time.
but Frank, you can honestly be an inspiration to people. Think about it. You ended your life. Well, your life's not ended, but your work life has ended, and you last worked at an Apple store. And I always said to myself, that would be a great idea to stop. I would work at an Apple store for my last part of my life, in a part-time role like you did, and then walk into the sunset into your basement like you're doing right now every day.
It's, if people say, well, why are you working there? I mean, I said, because I work with people that love the same things I do. I work with some of the best products in the world, and people come in that want to know about those products. And I said, oh, yeah, by the way, they pay me.
Yeah.
I said, where else are you going to go? And all they want you to do is tell people about the products. I mean, there's no pressure to sell.
I would say that's changed a little bit because now they want you to get numbers up for
Well, yeah,
trade-ins, and I've been told, oh my God, he's back. He is back at the end of the show. Ladies and gentlemen, Luke has returned.
He's happier now. He had milk.
He has milk, everybody.
All right.
Let's bring him down here for
No Zevia?
the show. Oh, he could have a Zevia. We could hook him up with a Zevia. So, well, I hope, Luke, that you are excited because at some point you're probably going to work at an Apple store in your life, and then I'm going to retire like I did, like Frank did. And, that's what we're going to do.
Well, just to end it, I always tell people that people say, I'm looking for a job or whatever. I tell them, check out the Apple store. You can't beat working for that store. You cannot. They're flexible with their hours. Especially if you're if you're a college kid, they'll work with you. At least they worked with
part-timers.
me.
Well, part-timers, I would say yes. You're a full-timer.
Yeah,
a little different story.
full-time, right. But where else are you going to go? You work a minimum of 21 hours a week. You get medical insurance, 401k, stocks. I mean, medical, it's just nuts what they give you.
Absolutely. Yeah, speaking of nuts, my cat's back here in the background, too. Unbelievable.
I see it.
The whole family's here.
Family's there.
The whole
man.
family's here. But we want to thank you guys for joining us here at the Think Different podcast. We are happy that you're joining us every single week. And for, not myself, but for my son, Mr. Lucas, we like to say bye-bye and go to an Apple store.
Take care, man.